Self-sabotage. Let's look at sabotage. Sabotage is when somebody doesn't want something to work successfully and they thwart it. They tell lies, they cheat, they could go so far as damaging equipment, damaging buildings, damaging a vehicle, in order to prevent something from succeeding. That would be sabotage. What is self-sabotage? Well, self-sabotage would be when you thwart your own ability to succeed at something. So a simplistic example would be not studying for an important exam. Drinking, drug abuse, self-harm is self-sabotage. Not doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Procrastinating. Knowing you have an important meeting and not preparing for it. It's actually quite easy to sabotage yourself. Does everybody do it? Well, I suppose to some extent, everybody at some stage probably has self-sabotaged in some way or other. You know, even not brushing your teeth can be seen as self-sabotage because your teeth are going to go rotten and fall out. Smoking cigarettes. Staying up late every night. Playing games instead of doing the job you're supposed to be doing, or preparing for the test, meeting, project that you're supposed to be doing. Those are all forms of self-sabotage. So why do we self-sabotage? I mean, why would you do something that prevents you from succeeding at something else? Why would you ruin a happy, loving relationship because you're scared of it succeeding? Why would you go to an important job interview and be rude to the interviewer? Why would you sabotage your success, your ability to win at something, your ability to be happy? And where does it come from? I mean, I don't know why we do it. I know I procrastinate. I'm pretty damn good at it. Why do we do it? Why do we sabotage our own chances at success? And is it a form of self-not love by sabotaging? Or is it fear that drives one to sabotage a potentially positive outcome? You think, well, why would you be fearful of succeeding? Well, if your entire identity is built around one of, I am not good enough, I will never succeed, your self-concept becomes skewed into believing if you are successful, you are failing. because you're not supposed to succeed. You're not supposed to be good enough. So if you show that you are good enough, you're going against your own inner belief that has come from an external force. It's horrible. I never thought of it that way. You damage yourself because someone somewhere has made you feel not good enough, not valid. How does that even work? How does that even work? So your self-concept, your self-esteem would be not all that great if you think harming your potential to be happy and successful is a good idea. And yet we do it. I don't know if everybody does it. I do know that potentially a form of laziness plays a part. I also get from a relationship perspective that the person may have some form of avoidant behavior or be scared of the commitment and requirements of a long-term relationship. And I'm speaking about a man and woman, woman and woman, man and man relationship, a happy, loving couple. So one or other party decides they're scared of it. So then fear would actually kick in. And they would start behaving in such a way that the other party becomes unhappy and ultimately leaves. And that would be a form of self-sabotage. So where does self-love fall into this? Because if you love yourself, you want what is best for you. And it wouldn't be self-sabotage if you were preventing something that's not good for you from happening. But if something is good for you and you prevent it from happening, then you are sabotaging yourself. Whether it be by drinking all night the night before an important interview, I work partly in the mining industry, and one of the hard and fast rules on the mines is that you may not enter the premises if you cannot pass an alcohol breathalyzer test. And yet, external suppliers to the mine, visitors to the mine, will drink heavily the night before a meeting at the mine. And the mine will give you a breathalyzer test. And if you fail that breathalyzer test, they blacklist you. They will never allow you back on the mine. That is the rule. And there's a practical reason for it. It's a health and safety issue. There are particularly large vehicles and a lot of moving objects on a mine and in a mining operation. So from a safety aspect, they can't have people who are not 100% cognizant of what they're doing on their premises. And yet people do. They drink, and the next morning they go to the mine and they fail the breathalyzer, and they're never allowed back on the mine again. Ever. If they're an employee, it's instant dismissal. that's the rules. So why would you self-sabotage? Why is it so important that you go drinking the night before a meeting, or you play a computer game until 4 o'clock in the morning before you have a big exam, a life-altering exam that will allow you to achieve your goals? Why would you do that? What is the driver behind it, and where does that driver come from? I'd have to think it comes from childhood. Unfortunately, most of the mental disorders out there come from childhood. Those that, well, even the genetic ones, I suppose, come from childhood. But the preventable mental disorders come from childhood. They come from parental abuse or sibling abuse or peer abuse, teasing, violence. They can be circumstantial, such as poverty, for example. So, how do we stop ourselves self-sabotaging? How do we get our brain to recognize what we're doing to damage ourselves? Because that's what we're doing. We are damaging ourselves. We are stopping ourselves from achieving a goal. We know what we're doing isn't beneficial. We know what we're doing is an action or behavior that is going to lead to failure, and yet we do it. Do the super successful people self-sabotage? And is self-sabotage once in a while you self-sabotage? So once in a while you do something like miss a deadline, or ignore a report you need to write, and then it's not self-sabotage. Is that how it works? Or is self-sabotage something that, no matter how infrequently it happens, it is still self-sabotage? Is that the way it works? And if that is the way it works, how do you stop it? How do you stop yourself self-sabotaging? Well, we do know that the first step to any form of rehabilitation of anything is recognizing there's a problem. And that's half the battle won. So, for example, you doom scroll on social media, and after a few days you realize all I've done for the last couple of days is scroll on social media, and I haven't done my homework or my report. I've not made supper or fed my children, or whatever the case may be. I haven't done my chores. So recognizing that doom scrolling is self-sabotage, because it is indeed self-destructive, and it leads to overwhelm, because with doom scrolling you're looking at the worst of the worst everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. So doom scrolling effectively would make you feel helpless, unless of course you're a sadist, in which event you'll probably feel quite cheerful about it. But the average human, reading about all the atrocities that are happening around the world, whether they natural disasters or man-made disasters, is bound to make you pretty miserable. It really is. And unless you're doing the doom scrolling for a scientific research paper, and you're doing it from a non-emotional perspective. But realistically, it is self-sabotage. So why do we do it? Why do people get hooked on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube? Why? Why do we get addicted to it? And why do we read, watch, listen to complete rubbish? Yes, it's good to know what is going on in the world. It's not necessary to read 10 stories of the same disaster. It's not necessary to look at every single abuse case that you can find. Because your soul, I guess, wouldn't be able to cope with that. And it is indeed self-sabotage. But why do we do it? I guess part of it is numbing, especially in the case of drug substance abuse or alcohol abuse. And that includes prescription medications. If you look at people who are addicts, they normally don't become addicts because they enjoy it. They become addicts because it makes them feel less bad. It makes them feel less bad. And I know that wasn't proper English, but that's the reality of it. It numbs the pain, the deep pain inside. Prescription medications quite often are abused because of a physical injury, and one becomes addicted to the substance because one's been trying to numb an external pain or not an emotional pain. And the body gets used to it. But often that type of abuse comes from numbing emotional pain. And that is self-sabotage. Because you can only numb it for so long. You can only numb pain for so long. If you don't heal it, it doesn't go away. One of the biggest, I don't want to use the word crimes, but yeah, crimes, is people who drink alcohol because they feel sad. So that they develop a form of depression, and they drink alcohol because when they've had enough alcohol, they feel happy, or they're able to sleep, or they're not sad. The problem is that alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. So you haven't dealt with what made you sad. And when the effects of the alcohol wear off, you feel sad, and sometimes sadder. Because numbing emotional pain doesn't cure it. It alleviates it for a short time. And that is self-sabotage. So why do we do it? And where does it fit into the self-love paradigm? Because if you love yourself, you're not going to sabotage yourself. If you love yourself, you're going to do what is best for you in the majority of circumstances and situations. You're not going to do something that's going to hurt you emotionally, physically, financially, mentally. And yet we do it. Like I say, I don't know if everybody does it. I know I go through varying stages of self-sabotage. And mine comes up in the shape of procrastination, because I do not use substances to numb the pain anymore. And no, I'm not saying I was a drug addict. I don't use substances to numb the pain anymore. And one of the substances that I did use were antidepressants. And no, I'm not advocating that you throw away your antidepressants. But if you go on antidepressants, please go for counseling. Nobody is supposed to be on antidepressants their whole life. Nobody. Unless you have a physical chemical imbalance that can only be rectified by a substance, you should not be on it for the rest of your life. Your body is showing depression because there is something mentally harming you. There's a thought pattern that is wrong. There is something that has happened that is wrong. There is a trauma. Your body is reacting to whatever emotional stimulus it's been given that it hasn't processed. Taking an antidepressant will numb it. And you'll be able to take a hit a lot easier. You really will. That was my experience. And one day I realized I've been numb for far too many years. I've laughed when people have insulted me, even though inside it actually does hurt. And that is self-sabotage. Unfortunately, I didn't tell the psychologists I visited everything. Because, things are private. Anything you say can and will be used against you. What if you say something that the psychologist doesn't approve of? That's how my brain worked. I'm doing this video, and all I can think in the back of my mind is, if certain people decide to take this and destroy me with it, they will have a field day. And I do indeed know 3 or 4 particularly malicious individuals. One of them happens to be a full-blood family member who would get great pleasure out of destroying me. This would be the same person who tried to have me committed as insane because I refused to commit fraud for him. So, yeah. And yet, I don't see this particular video as self-sabotage. My intention is to find a reason, a purpose, a value to life. Because life isn't supposed to be sad. Life isn't supposed to be hard. Life is supposed to be fun. Life is supposed to be wholesome, not numbed down with drugs, alcohol. It's not supposed to be numbed down, it's supposed to be enjoyed. And I find myself unable to smile, let alone laugh. And unfortunately, emotional pain will do that to you. But instead of giving up, I am doing something that may well get me destroyed by certain revolting individuals. And at the end of the day, I think the risk is worth it. Because I'm actually not self-sabotaging. I'm actually trying to work out how to live a wholesome life that has joy, where I want to smile freely, where life works, where I'm not drawn into Twitter and the absolute hatred between races, where people destroy people. So, self-sabotage. Why do you do it? Why are you not doing what you need to do? Why are you not finishing your homework, not writing that report, not studying for your exam, not getting a good night's rest before your interview or your meeting? Why are you doing it? And if you feel called to do so, please put it in a comment below. I'd love to hear it. And where does it come from? Where does it come from? What part of your formative years has made you believe that you don't deserve to be successful? And listen to that again. What part of your formative years has made you believe that you don't deserve to be successful? What is it? Who said what? Who did what to make you believe you don't deserve to be successful? Because somebody did. Somebody did. It may have been your mother, your father, your teacher, your sister, your brother, your aunt, uncle, grandfather, grandmother, school friend, somebody, somewhere, made you believe it. You know, we've all seen school annuals or school reports, whatever it's called, where a teacher writes, least likely to succeed on the report. And every now and again, that least likely to succeed becomes uber successful, because they look at it and they think, you know what, stuff you. I will succeed. Just because I find your class, your school, your whatever boring and tedious does not mean I'm not going to succeed. It means you are boring. Sometimes the person happens to meet a particularly good mentor, and that mentor shows them the right direction in order to succeed. Sometimes it's that. But someone somewhere has told you that you aren't good enough. And when you figure out who it is, when you figure out what it was that happened that has made you believe it, you can start fixing it. Because when you figure it out, you can start looking at that person with an objective perspective. You know, when you're a child, you are reliant on people. You are reliant on your family to take care of you, to protect you. When you get a bit older, you don't need them anymore. You do not need them. They cannot harm you. So why allow that disgusting behavior from somebody in your childhood to fester throughout your life? And I'll put a side note here and tell you that that's basically what I've done. I just wasn't aware of it. I literally was not aware of it. So, if you are sabotaging yourself, please go to a counselor. Tell them the truth. Tell them everything. There is absolutely no reason for you to be ashamed for what somebody else did to you. You do not have to protect somebody who should have been protecting you. You do not have to do it. So, please, go to a counselor and tell the truth. Because there are people out there who can help you. And yes, it does cost money. I don't know, in your part of the world it might not cost as much, or it might be covered by some or other health service. But get that help, because the longer you wait, the older you get, the harder it becomes. Because those behaviors become patterns, addictions, habits. And those are a lot harder to break when they've been going on for years and years and years. Anyway, I hope you have a great day now.